D is for Derelict Bay by Red Light. So you want to hear about Derelict Bay, huh? Imagine a place that was abandoned by the goddesses and left derelict to rot until the end of time. Few venture in and fewer return. It lies on the toxic coast of Philadelphia. The water is radioactive sludge and sand is sulfur to the flesh. Don't think water would be a reprieve either. To merely touch it would melt the skin off your flesh and eat away at your muscle to the bone. Celestia save you if it rains. The acidic rain is like bathed in hydrochloric acid from a cheese grater. It's a place with no resources or anything of value, or if it did, it disappeared a long time ago. Slavers do not use it either. They abandon it just like Celestia and Luna. But that is where one smart enough or desperate enough could make use of Derelict Bay. I pulled myself underneath the wire fence. I didn't have any at the time. I heard them coming for me, and they were closing in. The mud squished under, and I almost felt myself sink. Narrow columns of light waved erratically in the night sky. Their flashlights were closing in, and I could hear their shoutings. The grate was too low, and the mud wasn't deep enough. They found me. I knew they'd stop my skull or electrify the gate underneath. My masters were cruel, but I didn't know what came over me. One moment, I saw I had stabbed my potential rapist with a pair of scissors, and saw his twitching body and pulling blood on the floor. Now I was running for my life, or how much was left. I held my breath and tried to erase my mental barriers, but nothing prepares you for self-inflicted pain. I pushed myself under the end of the fence, and I felt the metal wires cutting and pulling at my flesh and coat. I almost felt the warm blood, but the mud was so cold, so very cold. I screamed as the last piece of skin began to rip, leaving a small bloody shred on the fence like a trophy. I saw the lights turn in my direction in the sky. My cry had alerted them to my whereabouts. I tried to keep going, though. Derelict Row was off limits for the slavers, but that wouldn't stop a Griffin from taking to the sky and gunning me down, or worse, plucking me up and taking me back to be tortured to death. No, I needed to hide. "This way!" one of my pursuers declared. I limped. Small tears on my back burned. "Get him, Hawks!" I knew the name. My fears were correct. A griffin. The rain dripped in places, and I felt the hissing sting of the acidic contents. I forced myself into another gallop when I heard Hawks call from above, threatening to flay me alive. I threw myself into a small pile of rubble and debris in vain hope of evading him. In vain it was, because he landed with a heavy thud seconds later. Damn it, so this is how I went in. "You're making a fine build by my fireplace, pony!" Ha ha ha! Hawks laughed and crept around the debris pile. "I can wait all day. Hell, I get my sandwiches and we can have a picnic," he added as he skirted around my hiding place. I remembered the rain, and I decided to go to him. "Can we have vegetable sandwiches? I don't like meat," I said. Drip, drip, drip. "I was thinking more of horse meat on my sandwiches for today," he said, continuing to strafe around me. Drip, 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 drip. "Say, Hawks, how does it feel?" I asked with a hint of bravado I didn't think I had possessed. Drip, 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 drip. "How it feels?" he asked. He seemed to start to notice the rain. I didn't know I had that type of folly in me. "To be melted alive," I said, and just as I finished my sentence, the sky cut loose, and a deadly torrential deluge fell to earth. Immediately I heard Hawk scream in burning agony. I imagined his skin melting away and falling to the ground in sticky strips, and his wings melting to their frame, disabling him from flying. He screamed while he could, and then it died to pain gurgles. Then it was nothing. He was finished. Now all I heard was a toxic rainstorm. In the storm, I could barely make out the huddled mass of flesh that was, had been Hawks. He looked like an expiring beast. His flesh was falling off his bones, the loose succulent meat, but the once intense pain was still prevalent on his face. His face, now a patchy mix of skin and exposed skull, reflected agonizing pain. I breathed a shallow sigh of relief. He was dead. The slavers were halted and unlikely to pursue me now, but now I was in one of the most treacherous places in Philadelphia. It was until later I felt a burning sensation in my hose. I stopped and looked down, and the damp sand had made them bloody and scabby. The acid rain was being absorbed by the sandy ground of Derelict Bay. I needed to get on solid ground. My blistered hose seemed to simmer as I pulled myself up to a collapsed roof that was just low enough to climb on. I huffed and huffed after the excruciating 3-foot climb, but with my hose it felt like 7. I tore off my slave rags and tried my best to bandage my hose, but at the very least it would shield me a little from the acid sand. The storm subsided, and I was granted a new view of Derelict Bay. It was grim and dark, but somehow a haunting beauty to it. The tide had come in, partially submerging several buildings, and damp sand blanketed much of the ground. I looked back at the hellscape of Philadelphia. The red smog to the sky was not as present at Derelict Bay. In fact, there was a fog coming in from the ocean. The ocean scent felt sickly, yes, but to a mare who had been smelling smelters and boiling metal for several years, it might as well have been a meadow of flowers. I will be free, I told myself, and for once I could see the means to be free. It wasn't going to be easy, and I wasn't going out without scars. Perhaps I could find a raft, maybe row myself to Friendship City. One way or another, I was going to be free.